Well, Ben, Fred, first of all, man, thank you for doing this. And you've been in the courtroom. I'm calling it Law and Order RAMS Victims Unit here. I don't know if that's going to catch on, but basically tell us specifically yesterday what happened here with the Rams and the NFL basically failing to get the lawsuit thrown out with this denial of the motion for summary judgment, if I described that correctly.
Yeah, you nailed it, Charlie. And yeah, you have a prominent place in this, man. You are a figure in this saga. So don't ever let anybody tell you differently. Your place in Rams relocation history is brought up often in coverage of the case. So you should know that first and foremost. What happened this week was the request for summary judgment was tossed out by Circuit Court Judge Christopher McGraw on all counts. That's not surprising. We expected that to happen. Because it really wasn't much of an argument by the Rams and the NFL to get him to change, his earlier opinions that he does think this case is valid. However, it is newsworthy because what it does is it really sets up two roads that this can go down. One is a settlement, which a lot of people expect before a trial happens in January. The other road is a trial in January that would, put this in front of a group of St. Louis jury members, and the NFL could get up there and argue that its relocation guidelines don't mean anything and that this is all a sham, and they can give that a go and see if a jury agrees with them. Now, we'll see which way that goes. I think it's going to go to trial, and I think that the NFL will probably lose, and then I think they will immediately appeal, and after that happens, I'm not sure. But I don't expect a settlement. We'll see way it plays out, but this really defines those two roads. So if the judge would have said, hey, upon rehearing your arguments for summary judgment, I've reconsidered and decided to toss the case, it would have ended. If he would have said, hey, I'm going to use some of your arguments to kind of trim down some of the defendants in the case, which is, I think, what the Rams and NFL really wanted to. I think they wanted him to drop some of the counts and maybe weed out some of the lesser defendants. He didn't do any of that. So that was the big news this week. There's a subplot going on here of another topic, which is a little more in the weeds. And that was actually what the hearing in court was about this week. The judge's decision to strike down the summary judgment, that was just a brief that was filed that we realized was in the system.
So I'm curious, why do you think it's going to go to trial? Because I'm trying to read everything and get different opinions. And a lot of people think that the Rams, the NFL will settle. So I'm wondering, and you've been in the courtroom and you've covered this as well as anyone, why do you think that it will go to trial?
I think it's going to go to trial because of the amount of money the St. Louis region is seeking. I think they're coming after a significant amount of punitive damages in the billions. That kind of leads us into this other subplot fight that is going on. In Missouri, you can, we'll simplify it here. If I'm riding down your street on my bike, right, and you back out of your driveway and you hit me, and it's your fault, you might get a ticket. But I'll probably, if I'm badly injured, I could sue you for punitive damages, right? In Missouri, you're kind of allowed to get a financial cheat sheet, if you will, on the person that you're pursuing punitive damages against that tells you how much they're worth. You can't sue a guy who's worth $50 for $5 million. It wouldn't, because he can't pay it. So in most cases, okay, you get somebody's net worth, and that's pretty commonly agreed upon. But we're talking about Stan Kroenke, one of the richest people in America, and along with a handful of other owners who are defendants here who have been green-lighted by the judge to hand over financial documents that prove their value. And billionaires don't like to say, here's all my money, and here's where it's located, and here's all my businesses, and here are their business proceedings, and here are my tax documents for the past couple of years, and here's all this really financial makeup of where my money is, how I spend it, how much I have, and the NFL has presented some of this information, but the Rams owner, Stan Kroenke, other owners in the NFL who have been told to hand over this information, they have not done it yet. And that was what actually the court hearing about was today, or this week. They said, hey, you have 2 weeks to hand this over, or you're going to get fined $1,000 a day until you do, because this needs to be reviewed for potential punitive damages, which I think is going to be a request of billions of dollars. I think it's going to be a significant ask. And what Kroenke and the other owners are hoping for is that the Missouri Supreme Court will say, hey, you don't need all this in-depth financial information. You can have some more surface level information, and we'll see who wins that. Hopefully we'll know within 2 weeks. And if not, then they're going to start paying a hefty fine on top of that for not handing over that information. And if they don't get the answer from the Missouri Supreme Court they want, maybe they'll try to take it all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But just that alone, the fighting over the handing over of the preliminary financial information suggests to me that there's not going to be a lot of agreement about money here. And I think STL is swinging big, and I think they feel like they've got a good case. And I don't think the NFL wants to admit any wrongdoing because I think they're worried about the track record that could set. These guys have argued in court, Charlie, that their relocation guidelines mean nothing to host cities. And that's an interesting argument. I can understand why they're making it for this case, but there's going to be a time later where they're going to try to move another team. I mean, hell, it could happen to Buffalo. And they're going to tell, if anyone in Buffalo is paying attention, they should see what these lawyers are saying in this courtroom, that their relocation guidelines mean nothing. They mean whatever they want them to mean that day. And they give, most specifically, they give us host city like Buffalo or St. Louis no rights. They give them no expectations. They've said multiple times, this is not a contract that includes a third party, that can sue based off this contract. So how can they ever say they follow the relocation guidelines or that they mean anything to a city ever again after arguing this in court?
Yeah, and we were here in St. Louis. We still are. We know the situation. We're learning more every single day. And I'm not saying we're homers either, but we know what happened. So I'm not a legal scholar, but it sure seems like, from my perspective, this is a slam dunk for St. Louis. But again, the Rams, the NFL, they're powerful. They have all the money in the world. They have the best lawyers in the world. Just right now, if it went to trial, what do you think the chances are that the Rams, the NFL, could actually win this?
I don't think they can win a trial in front of a jury here in St. Louis. I think their long play would be to try to claw everything back on an appeal. An appeal, immediate appeal, they might find a more sympathetic or more conservative group. And I think that's probably the long-term play here, is to, if they lose, immediately appeal and try to get it scratched back that way. They've taken the falling out of a tree approach to this, and they're grabbing for every branch on the way down, no matter how strong it is, in an attempt to A, delay, and B, maybe catch one that sticks. Well, so far the branches have been breaking off left and right. And I think the final one, if they go through with the trial, and if they're going to risk all of their dirty laundry being aired in a public trial in front of a jury, then it would be an appeal. Now, there is some belief, and I understand people who think this way, there is some belief that the NFL is going to be so worried about what might come out during a trial that they don't want this to get there. And that kind of feeds the settlement argument, that if the league is worried about all these documents that the St. Louis side has uncovered during discovery, if they're worried about, having to get these guys on the stand and what might come out, if they're worried about the ramifications of what could come after, of the precedent this could set for future relocation attempts, then maybe they try to settle it. But I just haven't heard anything of substance up to this point that suggests that is in play now. Maybe because of the ruling of the summary judgment, maybe those talks start to happen, but I don't think they've happened yet.
Yeah, I think the precedent is very interesting. This is just my opinion, but I don't know if the NFL and the Rams care as much as we think about going on the stand, because I just think these people are shameless, right? But again, precedent and the fact they would have to potentially do this again down the road, I think that's very important there. This is now a sports talk radio question, which we both enjoy doing that part of our job.
This is where you ask me how much money they're going to win.
Well, you already said in the B's. So the fact that you said it's in the billions, that's good enough for me. This is kind of a Twitter poll question, because despite everything that the Rams and the NFL did to St. Louis, I would still love an NFL team to be here. So you do the conspiracy theory. What if the Rams, the NFL, owe in the billions? And if you could right a wrong, and you have a potential expansion opportunity where St. Louis could finally get their own team, not somebody else's team, a team that was created here in St. Louis with a local ownership group. Maybe this is a pipe dream, but what percentage is that actually possible? If the Rams, the NFL, are facing multi-billion dollars in damages, that would seem like the better option for them, I would think, and St. Louis.
This is where I I make everybody mad. And I say that if it were up to me, I would say tell the NFL to go what do they say in happy days? Go sit on it, right? No, I don't think that, but I'm kind of a simple-minded guy, Charlie. Like, to me, it's kind of like if somebody treats you bad multiple times, why go back to them and get another and ask for another deal and expect something different? St. Louis has moved on. They've got a soccer team ready to launch. They've got all of these things kind of in motion. And I would say to the NFL, we're not interested in an expansion team. I don't think the NFL is going to be interested in putting a team in St. Louis based off of the way that this lawsuit has trended. There's some times where there's, you kind of get to feel like, okay, they're just going through the motions, these two sides. There's really not any bad blood. I think there's bad blood here. I don't think there's a lot of, this being some sort of, all right, let's have a compromise and plan a team as a seed of that compromise ending in store here. So could it happen? Crazier things have happened. We've seen some teams pop up as a result of lawsuits. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't. Do what I want it to happen, I wouldn't. And I know that makes me a minority, and I get it. And I like football, man. I played it. I loved covering the Rams, even though they were terrible. When I got back to St. Louis, and I know what that championship team and when it was great, the greatest show on turf has meant to the city and its fans. But I have a hard time now watching the NFL. It's kind of like, and I hope I'm not spoiling this for anybody out there. It's kind of like when you find out pro wrestling isn't real. It's hard to watch it the same. For me, it was when I was a kid. I hope I'm not spoiling this for anybody, that it's not real. And I get the entertainment value of it, but it's hard for me to watch the game. I feel the same way about the NFL. Not that the games are like rigged, but it's hard for me to watch the league and not see the shadiness behind it. And I know no pro sports league is perfect, right? They're not all Boy Scouts, but it just is hard. It's hard for me to see the way they've operated, and then to just the idea of saying, "Oh, give us a team and all will be right." I don't agree with that. I know that a lot of people disagree with that stance that I have, and I get that.
All right, final question on a lighter note. Do you prefer now being at the ballpark, the rink, the field, or in the courtroom? Could we see you transitioning to be crime reporter Ben Frederickson for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, holding people accountable?
I enjoy going to the games, man. That's still going to be number one. But I've gotten a kick out of covering this, and it's fun for me just because I was writing about it when nobody was talking about it. And I don't mean that as like, oh, look at me. I just mean like I was trying to say early on, like, this is going to take a long time. This is going to be laughed at nationally. People are going to roll their eyes when they talk about this, and no one's doing that anymore. Now, a lot of national outlets aren't touching it because they're influenced a lot by the NFL. But the fact that, a court in St. Louis said to Stan Kroenke and the Rams, this is happening. In January, there will be a trial here unless you guys decide to settle. And that you could get on ESPN and not see a headline on it that the NFL is being taken to court. It tells me that there's a lot of people who are incentivized to not cover this. So it makes me want to cover it even more. And I go back to the very beginning, and I'm not a homer in that. I think that St. Louis had no wrong in any of this. I said from the very start, if the Rams and the NFL would have came to St. Louis, Charlie, and said, all right, you guys signed this bad lease for the Dome. It had this crazy clause about upgrades and keeping it a first-tier facility, and you guys didn't meet it, that's on you. And now the Rams can leave, and there's nothing you can do to stop them from leaving. So don't try. And if you want to try, that's fine, but there's zero guarantee that they'll stay. And they have already said they want to leave, and that's what's going to happen. So you'd be better off not wasting your time. As soon as this lease expires and they go year to year, you're basically sitting on a lame duck team, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. And if they would have said that and the Rams would have gone back to LA, there'd be no lawsuit. There would be no legitimate lawsuit, but you know what happened, and we know what happened. The NFL came in and they said, okay, we want to keep teams in their host cities. You guys come up with a plan to have one, and we will lean, we'll have the idea of keeping teams around in that's our main goal. And here are the relocation guidelines. They say all these things, and they were handed down as if they were like Moses coming down from the mountain, and now to hear these same lawyers say they don't mean anything. It's like, how can this happen? Like, how can you have a league that makes all this money, that has all of these teams in its net, how can they say, that under oath that these things don't mean anything? It's wherever we want to go. Like, I think it's a big deal. I hope, big picture hope, A, that St. Louis gets a ton of money, sure, but B, that this changes the way they can run this kind of shell game. There has to be some skin in the game. There has to be some legal recourse for host cities, because they're going to put teams on the moon one day. They're going to want to put a team in Mexico or wherever. And, you can't just hold cities hostages if they're not going to have a fair shot in this. So I think there are people in the league who knew that. I think they thought they could get away with it. And I think they thought St. Louis would just move on. And they didn't. And I'm glad they haven't. So I hope to see it through to the end here. That's why it's so important to me.
Yeah, Ben, Fred, thank you very much for doing this, man. And again, you have done a great job on this, getting the word out. So I think everybody appreciates that. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Well, I just hope to make as small of like small percentage of an impact of what you've made, Charlie. So I appreciate the invite, man. Always fun talking with you, and keep up the good work.
Yeah, I just made one graphic that almost got me fired, but in the
Hall
end,
of Fame graphic.
I think people liked it.
Graphic.
So it's
in
all
the
good.
in the long run of things. I know you can't say this. I'm sure you very regret it. I think it was worth it. I don't want to ask you to say it, but you're in the Hall of Fame. You are a meme, my friend.
Yeah, I actually didn't think it was gonna basically blow up like that. If I did, I probably wouldn't have done it. I just was doing it to be funny, and I thought a couple people would laugh. But then in the end, the graphic was not false. So I'm glad Fox 2 had a little bit of a sense of humor and knew that we were on the right side at least.
Hey, the truth is never wrong, and you should never apologize for telling it.
No doubt. All right, buddy. Thanks, man.
You bet, man. Anytime.